What would happen if the BRICS nations united? In the modern world, alliances shape the balance of power. From military pacts to trade partnerships, the decisions of nations to cooperate can influence economies, politics, and even the daily lives of ordinary people. Among these emergent alliances, one group of countries has captured growing attention. BRICS, the name stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. 5 nations spread across different continents, cultures, and histories. On their own, each is powerful in its own way. But what would happen if the BRICS nations truly united, not only as a loose association, but as a fully coordinated bloc? Could they reshape the world's order, challenge existing powers, and build a new global system? The origins of BRICS go back to the early 2000s, when the idea was first used to describe a group of fast-growing economies with the potential to rival the traditional powers of the West. Over time, the name turned into an actual political grouping. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and later South Africa began to meet, discuss cooperation, and coordinate policies. Unlike military alliances such as NATO, BRICS was not founded on defense agreements, but on the shared desire to increase their influence in global affairs. Together, they represent nearly half of the world's population and about a quarter of global economic output. These numbers alone suggest that their cooperation could have enormous consequences. If the BRICS nations were to unite fully, one of the first areas of impact would be the economy. China already stands as the world's second largest economy, with India close behind as one of the fastest growing. Russia contributes vast natural resources, including oil and gas. Brazil provides agricultural power, exporting food to much of the world. South Africa adds minerals and a key strategic location on the African continent. Combined, these strengths would create a bloc capable of challenging the dominance of the United States and the European Union in global trade. Trade within the bloc could increase dramatically, as BRICS members might prioritize deals with one another. Imagine a system where Brazil exports food and raw materials directly to China and India, which in return provide manufactured goods, technology, and investment. Russia could supply energy not just to Europe, but directly to its BRICS partners. South Africa could act as a gateway to the rest of Africa, boosting both trade and infrastructure development across the continent. In such a scenario, the BRICS nations would not just compete with the West, they would build an alternative economic network that could reduce reliance on traditional powers. Another area where unity would matter is currency and finance. Today, most international trade is conducted in US dollars. This dominance of the dollar gives the United States enormous influence over global markets. If BRICS nations created a shared currency or even just agreed to trade more in their own currencies, it could gradually weaken the dollar's central role. The idea of a BRICS currency has already been discussed, with supporters arguing that it would give these countries more independence and shield them from Western financial pressure. Critics argue that the differences between the economies make such a currency difficult, but even limited steps in this direction could shift financial power. Geopolitics would also change. A united BRICS bloc could speak with one voice in international institutions such as the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, or the World Bank. Today, these organizations are often dominated by Western interests. With coordinated action, BRICS could demand reforms, more voting rights, and a stronger role in decision-making. This could reshape how global governance works, giving more influence to the developing world. On the military side, BRICS is not a defense alliance, but their combined power would be formidable. Russia and China already have some of the largest and most advanced militaries in the world. India, too, is a major military power with nuclear weapons and a growing defense industry. Brazil and South Africa contribute less militarily but still add regional influence. If coordinated, BRICS could rival NATO in terms of manpower, resources, and nuclear capability. While it is unlikely they would form a single military alliance, even strategic cooperation such as joint exercises or shared technology would change the balance of power. Of course, uniting BRICS would not be simple. These nations have major differences in culture, politics, and interests. China and India, for example, have long-standing border disputes and compete for influence in Asia. Russia's priorities often clash with those of Brazil or South Africa. Economically, China's size dwarfs the others, creating a risk of imbalance within the group. True unity would require compromises and trust, which are not always easy to achieve on the international stage. Still, the potential benefits are too significant to ignore. By working together, BRICS could build new institutions to rival Western ones. They already created the New Development Bank, an alternative to the World Bank, to fund infrastructure projects. Expanding this into a full-scale financial system could give developing nations more options and reduce dependence on Western lenders. They could also strengthen cooperation in technology, science, and education, pooling their resources to compete with leading innovation hubs in the United States, Europe, and East Asia. For ordinary people, a BRICS union could mean new opportunities. Increased trade could create jobs, cheaper goods, and more connections between countries. Students from Brazil might study in India, workers from South Africa might find opportunities in Russia or China, and consumers could benefit from lower prices as markets expand. However, challenges would also arise. Coordinating standards, policies, and regulations across such different nations would be complex. Inequality between members could create tension if some benefit more than others. On the global stage, a fully united BRICS could reshape alliances. Countries outside the bloc might be forced to choose sides between Western-led institutions and BRICS-led alternatives. This could lead to competition, but also new forms of cooperation. Smaller nations, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, might find new opportunities by aligning with BRICS, gaining access to investment and trade that had previously been dominated by the West. Yet, there are risks. A strong BRICS bloc might increase global divisions, leading to rival systems of finance, technology, and politics. The world could become more multipolar, with power divided between competing blocs. This might create instability, but it could also reduce the dominance of any single power, giving more voices a seat at the table. From an environmental perspective, unity could also make a difference. BRICS countries include both major polluters like China and India, and nations rich in natural resources like Brazil and South Africa. Together, they could coordinate policies on climate change, energy, and sustainability. If aligned, their combined influence could push global climate negotiations in new directions. Conversely, if they focused purely on economic growth, they might slow down environmental progress. The story of BRICS is still being written. Whether these nations will remain a loose group or evolve into a powerful union is uncertain. What is clear is that the potential is enormous. Their combined population, resources, and economies could rival or even surpass existing powers if they truly coordinated their actions. At the same time, their internal differences and rivalries pose challenges that may limit how far they can go. What would happen if the BRICS nations united? The world would likely see the rise of a new pole of power, challenging the dominance of the West and reshaping global systems. Economically, it could reduce the reliance on the dollar and create alternative trade networks. Politically, it could give the global South a stronger voice. Militarily, it could create a counterweight to NATO. Socially, it could create opportunities for millions, but also raise new tensions. In the end, the idea of a fully united BRICS is both a hope and a question mark. It reflects the changing nature of the 21st century, where power is shifting and new players are demanding their place. Whether BRICS becomes a true union or remains a symbol of potential, its very existence shows that the future will not be shaped by one nation or one alliance alone, but by many voices, competing, cooperating, and reshaping the world together. The rise of BRICS is not just about economics or politics, it is about the story of humanity moving into a new era of multipolar power. What do you think about the BRICS countries? Write your thoughts in the comments and leave a like and subscribe here.